Testing, testing. Okay. All right. I think we're working now. I check the audio and sometimes it doesn't work, but I'm excited you're here. We're talking live, and you know, when we go live, things happen. Gotta love technology and remembering to push buttons. Anyway, I'm Angela Walters from Quilting is My Therapy. I'm so glad you're joining me for my weekly live chat. Normally on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Central, I come on here and talk about quilting. I wasn't here last week. I missed you all. Had a last minute funeral to go to, so definitely not as fun as being here talking about quilting. Now, as always, Jessica is behind the camera monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, be sure to type it out and she'll get those to me. And I have a giveaway for you all. So go ahead, if you're watching the live chat, go ahead and comment like Susan did. Jessica, you're beautiful, smart, super. You know, she's picking the winner, so you got to suck up. No, I'm just kidding. I'll show you what we're giving away here in a second. So in today's live chat, I'm going to kind of show you some upcoming products or like things that are coming up, and then we're going to recap the last 2 videos from the Hello Spring video series. So kind of showing some things that maybe didn't make it to the video and then answering your questions, of course. So just a good, fun time. So let me click on over. First of all, wrong picture. Just upcoming events. We're based just outside of Kansas City, Missouri. I know not everybody lives in the area, so not everybody gets to feel the awesome humidity during the summer, but we have some upcoming events. If you happen to find yourself meandering through, get it? Meandering. In June, we have our quilt walk coming up and long arm classes. So whole big event coming up. You can check out our website to see all the details, but if you want to take some hands-on long arm classes, I do those about once a quarter, and then participate in our quilt walk, which is like our outdoor kind of quilt extravaganza in the historic downtown square. And that's on June 6th. So lots of fun. It's about this time of year that we're like, holy crap, quilt walk is in a month because it just seems like it just happened. So it's kind of funny. We're not quite yet into panic mode, but soon. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a fun time where you walk around the shops that participate and get the pieces of a quilt pattern that we're making. And this is the one that's this year's Quilt Walk quilt. So this is the quilt top. Joni just pieced it for me and got it to me. And so I'm super excited to quilt it and you can kind of see it in all its beautiful glory. It's really kind of fun to write the pattern and then see that quilt actually come together because it just looks a little bit different. So this is going to be the sampler quilt that you'll walk around and get the pieces for. And I'm thinking, we'll see if I get around to doing a video on how I quilt it. We'll see. It's on the list. It's always on the list. I know not everybody can be in the Kansas City area, so a couple weeks ago we told you how you can pre-order the kit if you want and get a free tote bag with purchase. So that's all the links for this is in the description box below. So that's kind of coming up, the Quilt Walk quilt. But as a part of the quilt, I can't just design the quilt pattern. I got to make a whole fabric collection to go with it, right? It's kind of like how my mind works sometimes. And it's funny because before I went live, we were type chatting and people were like, we want to see your design or how you design process. So I was telling everybody I'll maybe do something about that so you can see how it all comes together. But my inspiration for this was the 250th anniversary of America's birthday. And so I wanted something patriotic, but not like overly the top, like novelty. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just tend to gravitate more towards like blenders and nothing that's like super novelty. That's just me. So I was trying to make a collection, a fabric collection that kind of looked patriotic but could also still work for other things. And this is what I came up with, Liberty Blooms. And so you can kind of see all the prints in that. One of the funny things about designing my own fabric and producing our own fabric is there's nobody that reins me in. So I'm like, sure, I need a fabric collection with 20 prints. Why not? So sometimes I'm like, oh, I should maybe pull it back a little bit. But the reason I'm showing you this all now is because I have 2 new panels that are a part of this. So basically taking this fabric collection and designing some panels that can be perfect for a jump start to another project or just a little quick quilt. So I was going to show you those, and these are what I'm giving away. So I have the quilt panel. So I designed the quilt panel. It's about 42 by 52, kind of quilt size. They can't hear me. Okay. All right. So I guess we're having some technical difficulties. I'll talk a little louder and hopefully that will help. Sorry about that, guys. Not only if you can't hear me, then I'm probably talking fast too. So we got both sides. Hopefully that's working. Let me plug it in. Anyway, so I designed a panel that uses the prints from the fabric collection, thinking it would be kind of a fun project if somebody didn't want to piece a whole quilt. And so I'm giving away 2 panels. One right now during the live chat. So again, if you're commenting on there, and we'll pick a lucky winner, and then I'll pick a winner next week. So even if you're not able to watch live, you can leave a comment on the video and we'll draw a winner from the comments. So 2 ways to win. So this panel, again, uses the prints from that Liberty Blooms fabric collection, and a little bit, I guess, of the process. I like designing panels that kind of look like quilts. You know, I want to look like maybe I pieced something, even if I didn't take the time to do it. So I kind of had the idea of like just doing a simple square quilt, but like kind of pulling out the floral motif in some of those prints. And so here you can kind of see that was the inspiration from it. And I always love a block on point. I don't do a whole lot of piecing, and definitely not a whole lot of piecing of blocks on point, but I just think they look so nice. So that's the bigger panel, again, 42 by 52. And you can kind of see up close of some of those prints. So the squares are about 4 to 5 inches big. Just a nice little project. And then I also have a pillow panel. So the pillow panel is smaller. It's 19 by 42, and this is going to be perfect for a pillow, a table runner, or multiple ones to make a bigger project. So again, just kind of seeing those. Now we'll have these available at Quilt Walk, of course, but I also have them online. So if you want to get your hands on some, you can definitely click the link in the description box below. I will say this is a limited time kind of thing, so don't hesitate if you want those. So you can check that out. You can see both the panels, depending on how you're feeling, bigger, smaller, table runner, wall hanging, whatever. Having fun with that. All right, that aside, let's talk about the Hello Spring video series. So we just had the second and third video since the last time we talked. And in the second video, we saw how to use that bigger panel to make our projects. We made a tote bag and some wall art. So hopefully you enjoyed doing that if you decided to cut up your panel. I will say, as we're working through this kind of spring-inspired panel, seeing your guys' quilted projects on the Facebook group is a lot of fun. Stunning job, everybody. It's so great seeing everybody's, quilting designs and different ways they do it. It's just super fun. So keep posting those pictures because I get on there from time to time and love to look at them. But in this, first 2 videos were the big panel and the projects. That's where we saw the tote bag and those wall hangings. But in the third video, we started quilting the mini panel, because there's 2 different panels here. Now, one thing I did, and I didn't realize until I was getting ready for this live chat, is I never took a picture, like just a picture of the mini panels that I cut into for the videos. I have video of it, but not pictures. So I'm like, well, that was dumb. I don't know. Sometimes I just get so in the mode, I didn't get a photo of it. So I had to go back and do some screenshots of the video. So if you're wondering why things look maybe a little fuzzy, that's why. I was like, dang, that was not super smart. But here is that mini panel that we quilted in the third video. So when I'm putting together the quilting ideas for these videos, I like to have a range of designs. That way, if you're brand new to machine quilting, hopefully you can come in and have some design inspiration. Or if you are already an experienced quilter and you want, some other design ideas, hopefully we can hit everywhere with that. So with the bigger panel, we kind of talked about quilting around applique, and we kind of talked about, adding filler around it. But with the mini panel, we kind of went right into the flower meander. Now, we've seen the flower meander before in the videos that I've done, but it's just a fun way to add some beautiful texture. But also, we talked about how to change up the design and create some different variations. So hopefully, if you watched the video, you weren't like, oh, this is so overwhelming, there's too many options. Hopefully you were like, okay, great, there's different variations I can kind of hop into one if I like it. So when you're watching my videos, I hope that you don't feel that you have to do everything. Pick 1 or 2 of the designs and try them out. If you don't like them, then try something else. So this one was all about that flower kind of meander. And so not only did I show you kind of how to quilt it, we talked about how to create some variations. If you watch any of my videos, you know that I love creating variations because it's a fun way to change up a design you already know and quilt it in a lot of different ways. So taking something like that flower meander and replacing the petals with a wavy line, or adding some echo lines to give it a more custom look is just a really kind of fun idea. Now, it was funny because in the type chat, somebody brought up, Dee said she enjoys the flower meander, but she struggles with that wavy line variation. Does anybody else struggle with that? And you can kind of see that in the picture towards that left side. I show that as a variation to the petals that go around it. but I actually struggle with that wavy line as well because I'm not used to quilting it that way. If you already have one set way that you quilt something, it can kind of be hard to switch it up, even if it's an easier option. So D, you are not by yourself. I totally understand that. So again, we saw how you can change up that shape to create those variations, but then we also talked about ways you can quilt different flowers. And so we had kind of had fun creating our own flower shapes and hooking them together with meandering lines. This was so much fun, and I think sometimes we get so focused on something that the fun kind of leaches away from it. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be whimsical. It can be fun. And here I was just quilting a bunch of different flower shapes, kind of remembering back to when I was little and would doodle flowers everywhere. So basically quilting the shapes and using some wavy lines to connect them. Now, anytime I quilt a meander, that's all I'm doing, quilting that shape and then using that filler around it to help me transition from one to the next. But there was a question in the type chat. It said, Jenny said that doing shapes with a meandering line is fine, but just doing a shape can be a little bit tricky, filling in that area. Are there designs that lend themselves to that better? If you're struggling with taking one design and repeating it over a whole area, look for designs that use a lot of echoing. In this example, I'm using those meandering lines to move from one to the next. However, in a design such as swirls or even like other kind of leafy shapes, echoing is going to be a great way to help you move around. So leaves, swirls, anything that's already kind of echo heavy. Now, in the video, we talked about how you can quilt, those flowers and then have the meandering lines in between them, but you can also change the way you go about that. I could quilt them in a row if I wanted to. Sometimes you might find that a little bit easier since I don't have to try going in all different directions. Quilting them in a row like here is just going to give me a little bit of an easier path to follow. Now in this example, I quilted this with some thread color that matches the background fabric, so you can kind of see the texture of the quilting. Normally when I'm filming, I use contrasting thread so you can see it, but I think it's always good to see it, when it's on an actual quilt with the thread color that blends. And so here you can kind of see some different design ideas, just kind of playing around with whatever kind of comes to mind. And another reason I like kind of quilting those wavy lines is you can make it look like it's going behind something else. So in this panel, I quilted that big flower and then quilted the rest of the background with those lines that kind of draw your attention to the center. So another option of why I might do it that way. Now, some other things that didn't quite make it into the video, which is surprising, right? Because the video was like 20-some minutes long, but other pictures or things that maybe didn't quite make it in there. In the video, we saw how you can make one flower and just kind of plop it, right on another flower. And here you can kind of see that texture. In this example, and I said this in the video, I'm not necessarily trying to match the petals on the print. I am just quilting my flower, trusting that texture will look good on there even if it's not matched up perfectly. However, and another option here I didn't necessarily show on the video, this is that variation where you can add some echoing lines around it to really make those individual rows pop out a little bit more. So that first one you kind of just see that texture. The second one you kind of see that individual rows a little bit more. Now we saw that variation as a meander, how to quilt that echoed flower as a meander, but here I'm just kind of quilting it in one space. So nice, great, fun design for those bigger flower prints, especially for fabrics that you might have laying around. Now, in the video, I didn't talk much about quilting that center flower because we kind of already talked about that with the bigger panel. But if you were watching the video, you probably noticed on the pillow panel, in the example that I showed in the video, I just outlined those petals. Just kept it nice and simple with some outlining just so you can kind of see that, shape. However, there's a couple different options that you could do with that. It's like a choose your own quilting adventure. How much effort do you want to put in it? So here we can see just outlined, stitched around some of those petals and looks great. However, I think I showed this in the video too. I could also do one big flower, which is what I did here. Quilting that flower and growing it out. Now, I will say, once I got done with that, I was like, gosh, that is a lot of petals and it gets really big. So probably won't do that again on that big a scale, but you can kind of see what that looks like. And then using leaves around it to kind of fill in that rest of that area, especially since that flower is round and as it grows, then I can use the leaves to fill in. But another option that didn't make it in the video was here, where you can use echoing. Now, we did see this on that bigger panel, but I also did it on the smaller panel, using echoing around the outer part of the petals and then filling in with some different fillers. And you can see some different options there. Some paisleys, I left some unquilted, some wishbones, really whatever you feel like quilting. Because once you're done filling it around, the part that I think stands out a little bit more is that echoing. So that filler is just kind of squishing down an area and then letting the echoing show up. So a kind of a different option for that flower if you were like, I want something a little different. And here you can see a little bit closer up. So lots of fun. I will say with this one, and really on any kind of quilt you're trying to do like this, as you're quilting, if you find yourself stuck, which is going to happen here, or not where you need to be, I love to use traveling to help me maneuver my way around the area. So if you look along the edges of those petals, you'll see where I traveled along it to help me get from one to the next. So sometimes it's good to have a plan to try to avoid getting stuck, but sometimes it's really just not avoidable. So use that traveling to help you get where you need to go. All right, in the next week's video, we're gonna be making projects out of that mini panel, and we're gonna be doing the cute little fabric basket and the supply roll-up. So again, this is not something I do with all my videos, but sometimes just turning that quilted fabric into some fun projects, I think just, I don't know, makes it a little bit more, less daunting, I guess is what I would say. But I know sometimes when you're practicing quilting, you're like, I don't really want to hang this up on the wall. Well, you can definitely turn it into some fun things to hang up on your, or to have around your house. So we'll be seeing how to do that. Fabric basket and supply roll up, kind of fun. Plus it's just kind of cute to have it, you know, around the areas. All right, so that kind of is next week's video that will come out with those projects. Will wrap up the whole Hello Spring video series, a four video series. So kind of excited about that and to see what you guys are all making with it. Now, next week's live chat, we'll be talking about the upcoming Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along, which will be starting in July. So lots of stuff going on right now. Super excited about that. Real quick, before I answer any questions that came up, in the type chat, Dee asked, she said, when you do your videos, you say something about throwing your quilt over your shoulder. Are you actually doing that? Now, sometimes I am. Like, it's a smush and push. It is like, I need to get this thing in there and done. So when you're in the center of the quilt, sometimes the bulk of it is just in the way. And yeah, sometimes you throw it over your shoulder, it goes in your lap. Basically, the reasoning is I'm trying to keep that whole quilt up so it's not pulling on the sides and dragging on it. So that's the main idea. So I told her in the type chat, I'm half serious. I'm joking, but it's true. So sometimes I will throw it over my shoulder, depending on how big it is. So that was kind of a funny little question there. And then any other questions that came up? I already answered the other two when there. No questions. All right. There's no questions because you all can't hear me, right? You're like, oh. All right. So our giveaway for the live chat, for those of you that joined the live chat, it's the mini panel. How cute is that? And the winner is Virginia from Humble, Texas. So Virginia, you're the winner. Email us at customerservice@quiltingismytherapy.com and we'll get that sent out to you. If you aren't Virginia or you're watching this later, no worries. Leave us a comment on the video and next week we'll pick a lucky winner for the bigger quilt panel. So you still have a chance to win. And don't forget, all the information for the Hello Spring video series as well as the upcoming Quilt Walk stuff is all in the description box below. Just click the link in there. Or you can visit quiltingismytherapy.com. Well, thank you for bearing with me during the technical difficulties. I'll be back next week with another live chat. Until then, everybody, happy quilting.